Welcome to Navigating Hope, your compass to health empowerment. I'm Dr. Jaime Hope, steering you through healthcare, overcoming overwhelm, personal goals, and emergencies. We'll navigate the healthcare maze with actionable insights and real-world advice, unlocking the secrets to a healthier, more vibrant life. Join us to take control of your well-being and make informed decisions for your health and your future. Stay with us as we unravel the mysteries of medicine, wellness, and life's unforeseen challenges, helping you bypass the ER with a dose of knowledge. Stay tuned till the end of the episode with a recap of your actionable insights and a free gift. Let's chart a course to your well-being together. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Navigating Hope. I am so excited to be joined today by Bria Gadd. She is an integrative nutritionist, holistic health coach, and personal trainer who specializes in female hormones. Men do not change the station right now, because if you have women in your life, you need to listen to. She specializes in helping women with weight release and energy gain. Do you love that? In pre and post menopause, finding clarity in the hormonal chaos. After helping thousands of women lose weight in their 20s and 30s, she recognized a difficult shift in women's ability to get results in their body during those perimenopause years. I swear my weight's changed on my 40th birthday, so I know what that means. With more than 12 years of experience in the fitness and nutrition industry, she has created a proven strategy to dramatically improve the challenges women are experiencing in weight release and energy gain. Her podcast, The Period Whisperer, of which I am a huge fangirl, is a top 2.5% wellness podcast in the world. And she has a huge Instagram following, and there's a reason, because she gives, she educates, and she's so genuine. We've been having a conversation, and she's just a lovely person. So thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, thanks, Jamie. Thank you. You're so amazing. So I'm really, really excited we can just fangirl here together.
Yeah, this is fun. So we have some girl talk, but like I said, guys, don't turn this off, because better relationships with the women in your life if you're a good listener here today. So
Definitely.
All right, so let's start with your origin story. So the Period Whisperer, which by the way is such an amazing name. As soon as I heard it, I'm like, I already love her. How did you get into this space where your passion is empowering women?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I had, built my initial, one of my many initial first careers, but like the last one that I had, right? We always have so many when you're finding your way and finding yourself as a personal trainer and online nutrition coach while I was having babies. So back in my late 20s. And, it was great. I've always loved it. I've loved working with women. I really loved learning how to make health and fitness a part of my life. And I really was like, okay, I don't have everything figured out, but like I've got my nutrition and fitness figured out. And then around the age of 35, I had a big cross-country moved from Canada to the US, which was a lot. And my daughter started going through some anxiety. And I started to notice kind of all at that same time, some changes, first in some of my clients that kind of made me go, And then by 37 in me, where it was a few things. It was very much like started as this sort of low-grade fatigue, some anxiety for the first time in my life, which I wasn't familiar with. Definitely some irregular periods, which probably should have had me, the first thing had me go get checked out, right? But I was very good at ignoring things for a while or tolerating. And then digestive issues, like I felt like my skin was changing. And I had what I like to call, and I think you touched on it a little bit, what I like to call undeserved weight gain, where you change nothing, but things are changing. And you're like, I don't understand. And then,
so uncool.
So uncool. And then the final kicker for me was I stopped sleeping well. It was like all of a sudden going from like sleeping my superpower to, waking up every night from 2 to 4 a.m., like just grinding away or hot in a hot sweat. And that was kind of my final straw, because if I can't sleep well, it's just can't function.
Yeah.
So that had me go to my primary care physician, who was wonderful. She asked all the questions, did all the blood work, and she kind of looked at me and was like, Bria, you're the picture of health. Like, this is just what happens at this stage. And
that's what you get for being so healthy, right? Though, isn't that kind of the message?
And it was a really on one hand, you're like, well, I'm so grateful that I didn't have any of those awful things that come up when you Google stuff, when you're awake at 2 to 4 a.m., as all women know, when you're like on your phone, which is not ideal. But it was a pretty dark moment for me because I'm like, I'm 37. I'm quote unquote the picture of health. And like it's not going to get easier. So like I don't know, like I don't know that I can do. It was a very depressing dark moment for me, all that to say. And I think a lot of women feel that way too. It's like overwhelming, it's confusing, and then they start to lose hope. And which is really what we're here on your podcast for. We're navigating that, navigating that hope. So that was where I kind of, I had my pity party for a couple days, and then I was like, okay, I'm not willing to like raise the white aging flag here. I see other women thriving in their life. I know they're not just lying. I must be missing something. And that kind of is what drove me into like functional practice, learning more about like specifically female hormones, what's going on in the body, how is it operating different. And it was in that process where I started to understand how things work really differently in the female body, or the pieces that I was missing. And as I worked on my own healing, and started to sleep better and feel better and find energy and have hope again and release that weight, which was really nice, I kind of hit this moment where I was like, if I'm in the wellness industry and I don't know this, how on earth are all the other women who are doing beautiful things in this world going to be able to figure out this information? So that just really pivoted me into this focus on support, encouragement, education, and just empowerment of women in this time.
Oh, I love your story so much because I like how when you were struggling with something, your first instinct was, how can I help other people? Mm. That's what I love about you. That's so genuinely you.
Well, thank you. I think it is. I think it's innate in a lot of us women when like something works for us, we're like, oh my God, I have to tell my girlfriends, or I have to tell my sister, But you do, because we see this everywhere now. It's, once you reach, so I'm almost 43, and it's a hot topic, amongst people. And I'm grateful that people are talking about it more, like, but what I really think is important is that women don't just think, oh, it's just my hormones and this is what it is. Like there's a lot we can do.
Yeah, we don't have to just accept it. And I like what you said, kind of the undeserved weight gain, because a lot of women get invalidated. The doctor's like, oh, you must be sneaking food and eating bags of chips and stuff. And you're like, no, truly, I'm not doing anything different. And I was one of those obnoxious people in my 20s that could eat whatever they want, do 3 sit-ups and have a 6-pack. It was unfair. I'm not pretending it wasn't. But those days, it's different now.
Yeah.
I'm 44. And so I see the changes, and I want it to be the way that it used to be. But instead, like working with, loving my body right now for what's going on. And so listening to your podcast, you said that this time in our lives is a gift. So I would like to ask you, what the hell?
I know it doesn't seem like the gift that you're wanting, but it's the gift that you need. How about that? And you will.
That was so perfectly put. All right. So again, for anyone who hasn't heard, explain this, because it actually does make sense. But seriously, when I first heard it, I'm like, girl, what the hell?
Yeah, I know. No, I really do believe this. And perimenopause is not a diagnosable condition. It's like a reverse puberty transition. So this is also why we can go to our healthcare provider and they're like, nope, you're not there. It's like, well, we can't really it's a time, it's a phase. It's just like we know.
It's not pathology. It's not something we can cut out or get rid of. It's just a natural part of our journey.
Yeah, exactly. So, and there's ranges of where things are at, but for all women, it really begins kind of like for all children, puberty begins around like 11, 12. For all women, perimenopause begins around 35, in those mid 30s. And not everyone's going to experience things. I think what I think is so important and why I think this is a gift is, first of all, what begins to happen is that the role of the hormones, who's handling the hormones in the body, is changing. Batons, like passing batons from ovaries to adrenals. Well, our adrenals, as you may or may not know, but whoever's listening may or may not know, are our stress managers. So right away, if you imagine being like a really busy mom doing all the things, and now someone just put another thing on you, like socks are going to drop through the, I always think of grabbing all the laundry and all the laundry at once, and like socks drop, as you go up the stairs. Things are going to drop, based
Perfect description.
Based on the state of your adrenals at that time. And there's no denying that women, and not trying to negate what women decades and decades before us have gone through, but we are carrying more emotional labor than we ever have as women. We're also doing more of the workforce right now as women. We have so much pressure on us to look a certain way, be a certain way, age gracefully all the time and be kind, all these things. We've got more chemicals and toxins in the air and the food and all the things. So we are more taxed stress-wise in general. So one, I really think, Perry, this shift kind of really just comes in with a big fat pink highlighter and tells us like, hey, something's got to give. You can't be like juggling all these balls and expect to be able to juggle. And this transition's happening whether you like it or not. So it's really going to come in and highlight, okay, how do I edit some of the things in my life that aren't working? But the other big thing that I think it brings to the table that makes this a gift is from puberty to perimenopause. In the name of the circle of life, women are hormonally hijacked every single month, right? We've got, we have these hormones come in, and obviously they play an important role, but they come in at a level to make us amenable to reproduce, to allow us to conceive and, give birth, and then to prioritize those human beings above ourselves for survival, for the circle of life. And I think that's amazing. We did our job. Now that is changing. And the gift here, Jaime, is like, if now every single month we get to purely feel, what we want, what we need, think of the boundaries we get to set, think about the goals we get to achieve. And it's happening around, 35 to 50. So we still have decades left of our life to like make our dreams come true, right? To have the capacity that a man has always had, to have confidence and clarity and drive for those things. But we need to make sure we're listening and making those changes.
Nice. So no, it doesn't. The way you explain it, it makes so much sense, because certainly some days it doesn't feel like it. But when we see it, it's an opportunity. Cut out the things that aren't working. And it kind of enforces, maybe sounds like too strong of a word, but it forces you to focus on your body and your health. You talk about health debt. And certainly in our 20s, you can build up a whole lot of health debt, get 2 hours of sleep, get up and run a marathon, you're fine. So can you explain that really amazing concept of health debt and how that accumulates with time?
Absolutely. I kind of think of it like we're born with this beautiful trust fund of like vital reserve energy, right? And really our energy is designed for our survival. Like we need it in order to, accomplish in order to fight sickness, in order to like have drive, in order to accomplish all these things that we want to do. And of course, throughout life, so in our 20s, we have a lot more of it. So we're not even quite in debt, but we're like making these credits, these drawdowns, right, in that time. So if we're not building that up at the same time, then we're going to reach our midlife and not have much. We're going to be in debt instead of having these great investments. And
certainly for any of us who made stupid choices in our 20s, you drew down a little bit. It's okay.
I mean, everyone made stupid decisions in their 20s, like I made stupid decisions in my 30s. I probably made some last week. Like,
I know, right? Yeah, it's part of the fun of life, right?
Yeah. What I don't know that we always recognized as women or were taught was that some of the things we thought were, building up investment were actually drawing down. And what I think happens more often is that we're redlining where we're at when we reach into perimenopause or when this shift begins. And ultimately, this hormonal transition is just a constant energy drawdown because it's got to happen. The job is being passed. Things are impacted by it, like any transition, right? You think about when you move jobs or move houses or have a baby or get married or get divorced, massive transition. So you have this energy suck that kind of comes with it. And that's what pushes us down into this debt. And when you're in that debt, all of a sudden this idea of eat less, move more to lose weight, for example, doesn't work. It's, all the least important functions of our body for survival, in the name of survival, get suppressed and shut down, like our libido and our reproduction and, muscle gain or fat loss, even blood sugar regulation and, all of the most important things kind of get shoved to the side because we're now in debt and we need to make sure we have enough energy to survive. And this is where our symptoms really blow up as women. And I think why more and more women are suffering now than ever before in perimenopause.
And I feel like a lot of women, because we were taught the whole bootstrap mentality, right? Pick yourself up by your bootstrap. Instead of putting deposits back into that health bank, they flog themselves more emotionally. Oh, you're fat, you're a loser, you're not doing hard enough.
Yeah.
Eat less so you starve yourself, work out past the point where it's nourishing and energizing to where it's actually breaking down your body. Or do you see that in some of your clients when they come to you?
Yes, it's heartbreaking. Like it's,
Yeah.
a lot of the times when I do see clients, like they're not eating enough and they're working out an hour a day. And the fear is if I pull back on that fitness, I'm just going to gain more weight. But and this is, I think, the mind mess that comes with it is like it's just been so drilled into us that hustle harder mentality. And that the only way to feel good in your body is to like do more and eat less, that we don't realize the discrepancy there and the cost to our body, and that our body needs a certain amount to function. Otherwise, it really shifts into that low battery mode and conserves at the
Yeah.
cost of other functions.
Yeah. And then we continue to just drill past that and past that and past that and wonder why we're tired and grouchy. And then people just invalidate us by saying, oh, you're just hormonal.
Oh,
Drives me
yeah.
bonkers.
Said that. Yeah. I think that's one of the biggest farces in that women have always been taught is this, oh, you're going to be cranky, you're going to have cravings during our luteal phase and that PMS time. But it's like, no, that's a sign from your body. That's the whisper from your body saying, I don't have enough energy. And we've been taught to just accept it instead of being like, oh, I need more energy supply. So I need to sleep more, I need to eat more, or I need to decrease the demand at that time. So I need to do less. So pick which one it is, but either way, we got to get up there. But cravings and fatigue and brain fog are all signs from your body that's not getting what it needs.
Yeah, that is so beautiful. That should be on billboards. These are signs that your body needs more energy. So either provide it more with, breath work and nourishing food and sleep and stuff, or decrease the demand. Stop flogging yourself. Stop the mental garbage that we do to ourselves that we've been so ingrained. And stop over exercising.
Yeah.
I like to think of it as energizing exercise. If I'm breaking myself down, am I not serving myself?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think about fitness as well, Jamie, where it's like, okay, if you don't love fitness, like if you love it and you're like, oh my God, this brings me so much joy and everything, which I get, we still have to do it in a way that is appropriate for repair and everything. But if you don't love it, you have to recognize that cardio is an energy investment always. It doesn't do a lot of energy give back. Resistance training is like buying a home. It is an investment up front, and it often has a really good return ROI on that investment if you keep it long enough, right? If you do it long enough. So we want to also choose the right when our body is out of health debt and we have this beautiful energy to spend on something. Make sure you're choosing the right thing. So it's either better like fill your body up with joy because you love it so much, or I would shift to, more of a resistance training focus for optimal health.
Yeah, and it makes a lot of sense because you're spending a little energy now to gain much more future energy. And if you looked at this like financial investments, would you want to just blow your money on a high interest credit card debt? Or would you rather invest in something really solid that's going to pay dividends for years?
Totally, totally. I love that. I almost think about it like either buying a car, which we all love and is really fun, but you drive it off the lot and it loses its value.
Right.
Yeah. Or you buy a house and you're like, okay, there's like a good chance this is going to appreciate in the next few years.
Yes. And so I think that those, and now I know you love metaphors. I do too. But they're so helpful to see. And I know some women are resistant to resistance training. If you're raised in that era that cardio is the only answer, and if you lift one weight, you're going to suddenly turn into this like beefy looking dude. It doesn't work like that. Can you just share with people that resistance training is a benefit? It's going to help you not fall and break a hip in 30 years, but you're not going to get this like manly body. It's
just not even possible for women because we don't we have what a lot of women don't know is that testosterone, which is kind of, touted more as a male hormone, is our most prominent hormone in our body as women. And it's very important for muscle recovery, for energy, but we only have 1/10 of it that men have. So unless you're like juicing, unless you're getting, it is very, it's very hard. Like you need to really support it supplementally in order to get to be larger. Like, right, obviously we see it in performers that it's possible, but it's not it's a lot of work and a lot of food and a lot, like it's just a very difficult thing. But
Yeah,
I,
that's a whole separate lifestyle for those of us who are not trying to do that, like fitness, Miss Fitness USA on stage, or whatever
yeah,
kind of
huge
stuff. Like
part.
resistance training actually makes you, I think, look more feminine, toned, shape, and it makes me feel strong. I can lift my own
Yeah.
suitcase. I can take care of my own stuff. I still don't want to kill spiders, but that's a separate issue.
I don't like to kill spiders either. I love that. I
Don't
love
do
that.
it. Nope, not it.
Yeah. And muscle supports our hormones. So it's going to protect our bones as we age. It's going to support our hormones, which also protects our brain, our bones, our heart. Like it's a very important thing. And again, I'm not just saying out in the world to the runners, like if you love running, never to run. I mean, if it sets your soul on fire, you should do it. You have to do it in a balanced way and in a supported way. But for those of you who aren't loving it, like when I pulled my cardio, that was one of the things I did. I took a good 4 months just to walk and do yoga when I was getting out of health debt, because a big thing for me was I have to reduce the demand on my body and so my body can take that energy and heal. That's another thing. It's like, I know we all want to go out and spend this energy on working out, but we have to have energy to heal and function. So that's a lot of upfront investment that we need to have before anything else and manage perimenopause. So when I pulled my cardio and just focused on yoga and then adding in resistance training, I mean, that was a big part of what helped my body release the weight. I started sleeping better. I stopped having that like debilitating brain fog in the afternoon that I know a lot of women have, like where they're just so exhausted and they can't think or they're forgetting things. And it's just simply about, hormones get blamed, but it's simply about, matching that energy supply and demand in the body.
Yes, and hormones are just they're part of that picture.
And
No, when you
perimenopause adds a demand, and that's why it feels like it just happens overnight, I think sometimes, because now it's like the body's doing something else, which does start to happen overnight. And now all the symptoms come in because we're at capacity.
Oh yeah. Now, even though you're an expert, did you still have any level of emotional struggle when you paused on the cardio?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's
So
like
like
to this
decades of
day, I still have to.
imprinting in training versus expertise, you're still a human being. That's
Yeah.
nice to hear.
Yeah. And I find as well, to this day, now that I understand how in our luteal and menstrual phase, the body is doing more, which means our metabolism is increased, which means a greater energy demand. Even to this day, every month, Jamie, every month, I'm like, oh, why am I dragging? I got to push through this workout. And I'm like, oh, no, you're not. And inevitably, I at least do one workout where I'm like, I was not supposed to do that workout. So we forget because it's
Yep.
so deeply ingrained in us. And yes, I'm human.
Yes. Okay, good. See, even though she knows so much, she is a human being just like the rest of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we can learn. So let's talk about it because there are ways to get out of energy debt. So there's breath work. We talked about exercise and nutrition. So what do you want to dive into next? Because this is so exciting to know. Not only now we understand the problem, but there are actually realistic things we can do.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I kind of have a 5-step process that I think, but specifically when it comes to health debt. So if
Yeah.
you're having, and if you're, for anyone listening, if you're having symptoms more than like once every 2 weeks, you're in health debt. It's there, it's happening. So
Boom. There's your diagnosis right
now
there.
you know. Yeah. And the first thing I think is so important is we need to, so if you picture this like, oh, now I'm in debt, we have this account of energy, we got to make sure we're not doing things that are poking holes in the bottom. So this money's just bleeding us dry, right? That's the number one. And I like to look at that in like a very like diet, rest, exercise, stress management situation. What are the main foundations of health that we have all gotten away from, but are critical? Like we see animals do it. Like this is critical for our functional survival. And we got to lock those in first because that's what's going to keep us from just dumping money down the drain or energy down. So with nutrition, I think that the first most important thing we do is that we know that there are foods that are not great for everyone. I mean, and then so there's key foods that we all know, like too much caffeine, alcohol, processed sugars, hydrogenated oils.
Yeah, no one's ever looked at a Cheeto and thought this is probably a health food, right?
Right. And I try to think of it as like if it takes your body more energy than it gives your body, that's the thing. And so
Mm.
I really think like, look, I'm still a huge lover of like chocolate and ice cream, love them.
Oh,
I don't think it
yes.
needs to be a forever thing, but when we pull things out in the name of healing, I think that it can feel very much like we're going to get out of debt a heck of a lot faster if we're, again, if we're not poking holes or picking at that scab every time it starts to heal over. So one, when it comes to nutrition, I'm like, pull those, pull the things we know are bothering your body and or taking more energy than they give, and get really consistent about when you eat. We need to, regulated blood sugar is like the frontline defense of energy for our body. So no more skipping meals, no more fasting. Like in the day, we want to wake up, we want to eat within 2 hours of waking, we want to eat enough to last us 4 to 5 hours later, eat enough to last us 4 to 5 hours later. And if for whatever reason you have to go longer, then you have a snack. But really, like 3 meals a day, sometimes that fourth, really consistently, because we don't want the body wondering when the heck it's going to get its energy. If it's going to wonder, it's going to conserve.
Yeah. Anytime your body thinks that you're in distress, it's like, oh, famine mode. Let's flip off
Yeah.
any type of weight release
Yeah.
and increase the stress to make sure you hold on to every last piece of bread you ate.
In the name of survival, because it's like, well, I don't know what I'm getting. Like nobody gave me the memo. Some days you eat at this time, some days you like, I don't know. So it makes a lot more sense when you think about it like that. With rest, I think another thing is really important. We talk about good sleep hygiene, but I think most importantly is like really regular bed sleep and wake time. And the reality is women in perimenopause need 8 hours of sleep a night.
Yeah.
Like they need more than the seven that we need. We need seven for repair, but like we're going through something, kind of like when you're pregnant in your first trimester. You're flipping tired because your body's creating life. Well, we're also tired because our body is shutting down a big factory here, and that requires energy. So we need a little bit more sleep. So consistent bedtime, consistent wake time are a really big one.
Yeah, I think people set an alarm to wake up for work. We need to set an alarm on your phone, like no screen after this hour, go to bed.
Yeah.
If we listen to our bedtime alarm as much as we listen to that morning alarm, think of the health difference it would make in the world.
Yeah, totally. I heard a really great, I'm trying to remember where I heard it, but this, I did not make this up. So and it's not to my credit, but it's called the 10-3-2-1 rule. And it's 10 hours before bed, no caffeine, 3 hours before bed, no more eating or drinking, 2 hours before bed, no more work. So and 1 hour before bed, no more screens. And it's just the best way you can support your sleep. And it does take, I think, a few days of getting used to, but it is an amazing thing. It's helping me sleep just beautifully these days.
Well, and that's amazing. The caffeine in particular, that middle of the afternoon slump, right? That's when people go get a sugary coffee. And like your point about sugar is so important. I call it unopposed sugar. So if you're having just sugar without at least some protein or fat to balance it, it's just spiking down. And then they're giving themselves that caffeine hit, and you're not metabolizing it all by bedtime. Yeah. So my daughter, who is 12, asked me, she's like, hey, I feel a little slumpy sometimes in the afternoon. What do you do? And I mean, I'm not going to espresso my 12-year-old. Yeah. So, right. I make good parenting choices. But so sometimes what I do, because I am a very slow caffeine metabolizer. If I had caffeine at 3 p.m., I'd be up all night. It would be miserable. So I try and go outside in the sun when I can. I live in Michigan, so sometimes that's a pretty brisk order. And I eat oranges. Like that's that citrusy smell. It makes me think of tropical. Take a couple of deep breaths and stuff. So I was looking for alternatives to that caffeine boost because I know that it messes up my sleep. And any other good thoughts you have for that mid-afternoon so we can protect that 10-3-2-1?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, obviously, and this isn't a quick fix, but we know that like getting enough quality. So like the sleep hygiene the night before is going to help the sleep, though, that really regulated eating and making sure you're eating enough for your metabolic type. Like if you do okay on oranges, then that means you likely are like a mixed or slow oxidizer. So then you want to make sure you're eating enough like protein, fats, and carbohydrates in your lunch.
I do nuts with it too, because I don't like having the unopposed sugar. And I feel like I need
that. Yeah.
I'm still trying to convince her that nuts are delicious. She's not really on board with that, but she'll have some. But so I have the nuts first, but then that citrusy smell. But yeah, I like some people can do it without that. I need the fat and the protein to make it through.
So a couple quick things that I find really helpful. I definitely am a big fan of getting outside, like you said. If it's not, if it's cold, I mean, I think I grew up in the cold as well. And because I have a dog, I'm got used to getting out in it. And it's like, it's a really refreshing thing, like a brisk 10-minute walk. So good for you after lunch, like perks the whole body up. But if it's warm and sunny out, like go take your shoes off, get your feet in the grass, like just turn your face towards that sun. That can be a really energizing thing. I think I think just even laying down for just 20 minutes, if you have that available to you. And then I really find breath work so helpful here. I think just taking some time to like really, a lot of the times we get tired because we're not breathing deeply enough. And so when we take, 5 minutes, I'm not like a, not, I have yet to find my meditational vibe in terms of like, oh, this is such a
Oh,
wonderful.
good. You're a human like the rest of us who are not, can't sit there for 3 hours in the lotus position and perfectly meditate and keep your mind clear.
I
Hooray!
have, yeah, aspirations, but I'm still very much a guided meditator. If I meditate, it's got to be guided to keep me kind of in place one day. Um, so I think just some deep breaths to really get the oxygen into the body. And finally, sometimes I think one of my favorite things is like throwing on like your favorite song and just cranking it, like just stimulate that vagus nerve, like get yourself kind of alive again and move your body a little. And I think that just kind of shakes us all up.
Oh, I love that. This is all very accessible, very actionable. And then you don't pay the consequences of the caffeine prolonged and the sugar spike going up and down. So those are fun. We're a big fan of chucking on a good like song, doing any type of chores at home. And like, you got to fold the laundry anyway. You might as well be singing at the top of your lungs as you're
Definitely.
doing it.
Yeah, we do the same thing. I crank that music.
I'm sure my neighbors roll their eyes. I think they've just adjusted to it at this point. They're like, oh, here we go again. I was doing yard work yesterday and I was thinking, I'm like, I don't know why they don't hate me.
Yeah. No, I'm sure they love it. I like it when my neighbors play music, so I'm sure it's fine.
Yeah, I think it's fun. It just kind of makes everything feel a little bit like a party.
Yeah, I totally agree. Why not? So that just stimulates that vagus nerve, which like really helps with the stress. It helps the aliveness. Like that's the part of us that's stimulated when we fall in love, that time you can remember the last time you fell in love and you're like not even hungry, you're not thinking of anything. You just have this like beautiful, like birds are chirping aliveness everywhere. We can stimulate that with like music or singing or dancing or yelling if you need to, whatever. So I think that's a good one in that afternoon slump, I would say.
Fun.
Yeah. And so we did diet, rest, exercise. I talked about just pulling that, I'd say pull the fitness. Like if you are working out and not getting results, your workouts aren't working. So
hallelujah. Let's listen to that. Okay. Listen to that, people.
Yeah. I think it's a really quick indicator that your energy demand is not, or your energy supply is not meeting your demand. And this workout is now creating just a greater demand. Let's get the body back into equality, build up a little reserve, and then we can spend it. And then you'll get results, which is amazing. So I like to focus on like 7 to 10,000 steps every single day. So going for a walk. And I really think we need to be stretching more. So whether you want to call it yoga or you want to call it stretching or whatever it is for you, expand the body, like take up space, release the stress in it. And your body.
It does release endorphins. I always am I want to do more yoga.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like I want longer meditation, but anytime I get consistent at it, I feel better. The proof is in my body.
Yeah.
As soon as I start doing it, I'm like, oh yeah, this is great.
Yeah. You know what it reminds me of is like, I started flossing my teeth in my 20s. So like not before my 20s.
I mean, did anyone floss in the first few decades of life? Only when your parents were looking. No.
Yeah. I'm like super proud of myself that I do floss regularly because it's just one of those things. And when you start flossing regularly, it's like you finally notice that there's things between your teeth. And until you floss regularly, you don't notice that stuff. And the same goes for, I think, yoga and stretching. Until you start expanding your body, you don't realize how tight it is all the time. And so you start to become aware of that. And then it keeps you just more mobile and flexible in general, which is huge for aging and our hormones.
It is. And it's really important because, as an ER doc, I've been doing that for almost 20 years. I see, the people who fall and they break their wrist or break their hip. And when you're older, those type of injuries are not just frustrating and painful. They can actually rob your independence.
Yeah.
People could end up not being able to live at home, which is one of the biggest fears around aging. And so every investment that you make now, listen up, ladies in your 20s and 30s, in your balance and in your bone health and in your strength are going to pay dividends in not ending up in my ER with a debilitating but preventable fracture.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're so right nailing that. I think these last couple of decades, we've been taught as women to really ask Olympic and athletic levels of physical output from our body, but we're not treating ourselves like Olympians or athletes, like real athletes this is their career. Yes, they work out quite a bit, but they also have cross training. They also have stretching days. They also have rest days. They have massage. They have proper fueling. Like if we're not doing all of that, we can't just push in one area and not balance it out in the other.
Yeah, it's easy to be that fit when it's your full-time job.
Yeah. Yeah.
I kind of changed my attitude around fitness. Pre-pandemic, I was a frequent exerciser. Mm-hmm. And then as it started, and my hospital in particular got hit really hard. Detroit got hit the third hardest in the US with caseload, and it was very stressful. And I went from being a frequent exerciser to a daily exerciser. It was not about my abs. It was 100% because that's how I was releasing stress.
Yeah.
And so it's been, I don't know, I should have looked, but it's, almost 1,600 consecutive days of exercising, but that doesn't look like a mega workout every day. Sometimes I do a 13-hour shift. I cannot then go run 6 miles. That's unreasonable. Yeah. And at times where I have been sick or, the death of a loved one, how I defined exercise for that streak changed because on that day, that was what my body was capable of.
Yes.
And then on the days that I have the energy and I'm like, yeah, I'm dancing, I'm doing stuff, I'm lifting weights and I'm loving it. And so that allowed me to be consistent because I was fluid in how I defined and nourished my body with that movement.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's really the most important thing here is that we start to pay attention and trust what our body is saying to us more than what people are saying outside of us. Like, I think really hearing that piece is so important.
Yeah, because the time I screwed it up was the day I had my hand surgery. I was okay. People ask me how I broke my hand, and I had this completely stupid story. I was like, oh, there were some puppies and babies together, and then a bear was charging at them, and so I defended them. And someone's like, really? I'm like, no. What situation in the world would there be like a pile of puppies and babies? I don't know. But what I was really doing, I was playing volleyball with Olympic level dreams and like college intramural level skills. So I went down for a save and I came up and my finger was going in a direction quite opposite the rest of my hand. Oh, and the sad part, I didn't even get the point. That's the most pathetic part of this whole story. Like I didn't even get the save.
Oh, it wasn't even this amazing.
I know. It would have been at least if I had gotten the game-winning point, but nope, no dignity in that. So of course I popped it right back into place. Kind of got to do it before you think of it. But I had surgery, and then I got home from the surgery. So now I've had anesthesia, so I feel like garbage. My body just hates that stuff. Yeah. And then I was like, oh no, I didn't work out and I don't want to lose my streak. And so I'm on the Peloton, like crying. And then after I was done, I was like, that was completely stupid. Why did I do that? I should have just called exercise like taking a nap. And that's when I realized it's time to define what I consider exercise. Instead of torture, exercise is energizing. And so after that, I've probably only done stupid things a few more times.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Right.
I love it. Well, I'll close the loop on that question you kind of asked is how do we get ahead?
Yeah.
So, we know with diet, with nutrition, we want to stop poking holes in. So we want to eat consistently. We want to avoid the things that are putting us further in debt. With rest, we want to have really consistent sleep and wake times and enough. With exercise, we want to pull back on the intense workouts until we know we have the investment and we just nourish the body through gentle functional movement. And then the last one is stress management, as you and I are talking about here.
Oh, yes.
I think like you and me, a lot of women use fitness as a stress reliever. And I think it's such an important stress reliever. However, it is not necessarily the best long-term plan. We also, in case there is an injury, we need to have like a more gentle stress reliever, I think.
Yes.
Having you think. So, and as I always say, because I remember when I first started doing yoga, it was like, yoga's not hard. What's hard is all the stuff that's showing up in my brain when I'm trying to do yoga. So that means you probably need to do it, right? Everyone always says that if you don't have an hour to, if you don't have 10 minutes to meditate, you need an hour. I'm like, oh, so true.
Oh, that hits.
Yeah, that hits exactly. So we need, some simple things. And honestly, one of my most favorite things to do is just before I eat, if now I'm eating 3 meals a day, I just take a minute to breathe. Like just bring that body and that central nervous system back into the rest and digest 1 minute, or even like just 4 deep breaths, where we just kind of bring this and then back in. And that alone will help calm and work on that stress. Do we need more than that? Sure, more would be great, but that's enough to, I think, bring some consciousness and keep us from, again, poking holes in this health debt bank account that we're so desperately trying to get out of.
Yeah.
So that's the first major step.
I love it. And breath, people don't always understand how much control we have over our own physiology. We think of breathing as natural to keep us alive, and certainly we're all doing it. However, there are ways that you can do. You don't realize you haven't taken a deep breath for hours until you stop and get your shoulders down out of your ears and open up your chest and take a deep breath, and you're like, oh, there! I didn't realize I was holding it quite so tight until I did that.
So funny. It's like we just kind of like hunch over and we're working, and then the whole, like everything, all the lungs, the diaphragm are all scrunched anyway. So if you wanted to. So yeah, that taking of a moment to really just open up is so important.
Yes. So, well, before we do get some final thoughts from you, this has been real. What I love about this is it's motivational, but it's not just like, rah, rah, high level stuff and leaving people with what can I actually do? This was a whole list of what I can actually do. So I know there's going to be a lot of listeners that want to dive in more. So first of all, if you haven't found the Period Whisperer podcast, you need to find that immediately and subscribe. How else can people interact with you if they want some more specific direction?
Yeah, come hang out with me on Instagram. I'm there every day at Bria_period_whisperer. Or my website is briatheperiodwhisperer.com, and you can reach my email and everything through that. So those are all really great places to learn more and see, if I can support you in any way. Yeah.
Awesome. Bria, thank you so much. Do you have any final thoughts that you want to leave everybody with?
Yeah, I do. I think what I really want women to know is to like take hold of this opportunity, and that these things I shared are really the first step, and they're going to feel like they're not moving the needle, but just nail these consistently. And that's going to allow you to take the next step in the process, because there are steps to get there, but it will always take longer than you want it to, because none of us are patient anymore. So just stay focused on these key pieces and be more in your life and not just less on a scale.
Oh, that was amazing. All right, everybody, stick around up to the end for your free gift. Bria Gadd, the Period Whisperer, an amazing person. We need to hang out. This was such a great value, great episode. And I really appreciate you being here. Thank you so much.
Same. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the Navigating Hope podcast. Our guest today was Bria Gadd, an integrative nutritionist, holistic health coach, and personal trainer specializing in female hormones and helping women manage the challenges of weight and energy and health during perimenopause and menopause. Bria's amazing podcast, The Period Whisperer, you can find that. We'll put a link in the show notes. And she brought an empowering perspective to navigate this unique health hurdle that women face as they age. Let's dive into those 5 key takeaways from our conversation. Number 1, perimenopause is a gift, not a burden. Bria emphasized that perimenopause is not a condition to fear, but an opportunity for women to tune into their bodies. She referred to it at a time that women can reclaim their energy, focus on their needs, and set stronger boundaries. While the hormonal shift can feel daunting, Bria believes it's time to realign health and personal goals. Number 2, health debt is real. Bria introduced the concept of health debt, explaining how poor sleep, nutrition, and stress management in younger years can add up, leaving us depleted by the time we reach midlife. She stressed the importance of making deposits into our health bank through proper nutrition and sleep and exercise to avoid hitting rock bottom during perimenopause. Number 3, energy demand versus energy supply. Hormonal changes during perimenopause can create a higher energy demand on the body, which means women may need to be intentional about energy supply through nutrition, rest, and movement. Over-exercising and under-eating, a common mistake, can actually worsen fatigue and slow metabolism. Bria advised listeners to shift their focus towards energizing exercise and balanced nutritional needs to meet their increased demands. Number 4, resistance training is essential for women's health. Bria dispelled the myth that resistance training makes women bulky, explaining that it actually helps women feel strong and look toned. Resistance training supports hormonal balance, protects bone health, and builds muscle, which is essential for preventing injuries like fractures in later life. And number 5, consistent, gentle movement wins. When women experience hormonal shifts, intense cardio can be counterproductive. Bria recommends focusing on consistent, gentle movements like walking, stretching, and yoga to support the body's recovery and that energy balance. She also stressed that quality of sleep, balanced meals, and self-compassion are key to managing symptoms and feeling good during this phase of life. If you are interested in taking control of your health and understanding what is going on, we have a free downloadable in the show notes with your Smarter Goals checklist. You can create smarter goals around consistent movement, resistance training, or even focusing on your energy, your health energy, and staying out of that energy debt. Also, Bria has a lot of resources. We're going to put links in the show notes as well, and I highly encourage you to listen to her podcast, The Period Whisperer. Perimenopause and menopause are not the end. They are a new beginning. By tuning into your body's signals and nourishing it with the right tools, you can reclaim your energy, confidence, and vitality. Stay empowered, stay active, and as always, keep navigating your journey with hope. Thank you for tuning into Navigating Hope with me, Dr. Jaime Hope. It has been an honor to navigate the realms of health and wellness with you today. Remember, in the journey toward a healthier life, knowledge is your compass. If you enjoyed our time together, please share, like, and subscribe to Navigating Hope. Join us next week where we'll continue to empower your health journey, arming you with the wisdom to navigate life's challenges and keep the emergency room in your rearview mirror.